you have your compliance checks. So you just go there and you read through, okay, so the advisor, accessibility, evidence, access for people living with disabilities. Is it a yes, no, yes? And if there are any comments, they put them there. You move to the next, you read through, yes, no. So if there's a problem here, then you come, you return it and say, look, under site compliance, I think you misrepresented us. We are wheelchair accessible, you can, you just tell them, and then they can either do another verification or you send them pictures. Okay. So this report is there for you in order to critique and then either return it or approve it. So you go through the whole report, what they said, you go to learner details, you check, okay, he said yes, it's compliant, yes, a comment. Sorry. And then you go to samples and the same thing. So you just go through all the links, look through what the advisor from MICT SETA said, and then either accept it or return it. Okay. Any questions on this? Yes, sir. To me.
Now, I'm curious to know if, as to whether or not for your system you do provide like a public API. Suppose there's a new solution, like a new digital solutions with which you would want to integrate with the MICT SETA. My question is as to whether or not you do make the API provision public, because there are new ways every day to do things, and you and I will agree together with says that some of the questions that were asked here were the answers of which were not satisfactory. So if there could be a solution perhaps that could cover some of those pain points, do you provide like an API so as to integrate what the solutions that we have with your systems?
For now, no, but we can always discuss that later.
Okay.
Since we're doing the training, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. All right. Any other questions? No questions. All right. Oh, yes, sir.
Can a learner check his or her progress from the system?
So a learner can't check their progress, but they can check their qualifications. So there's an API that we built where the learner can put in their details and they're able to check the qualifications that they've been not accredited, approved, or what they qualified for. So they can check that as well, and they can also check. They can also request for a reprint in case they lost the certificate. So they're able to see all that stuff. Also, what we did is, and I'll show you that now, we put QR codes on each of the certificates where an employer can scan that QR code and it will take to the learner's page, and they'll be able to see that, yes, this is, the learner has done this qualification, these are unit standards, and they passed. But during the process, they can't check. So if they've just done one unit standard, they won't be able to see it. It's only until it's been approved and the qualification has been issued. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, there's one question I've got here. Concerning the learning progress, let me start by the induction. Do we have a platform for the learners, or as a facilitator or a moderator or an assessor, that you keep track of the attendance register, even towards process of the learning process?
On the system, no. So we don't keep track of attendance registers. We don't upload attendance registers on the system. Yeah. So what we upload on the system are the learner POEs, and I'll show you that now next. So you upload each of the learner POEs, and then the assessor does what I showed you earlier for the assessor, then the moderator does the same thing. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Nothing? All right, let's move on. So we've done induction, we've done implementation, learners, implementation, induction, assessments, and learner POEs. So once the induction is done, you've approved the induction report. Now your program then moves to in progress. So you begin submitting your assessment POEs. You can't submit the assessment POEs until your induction is done by MICT SETA. So the assessment POE section is similar to the one that you saw with the assessor and the moderator. I think you remember this, where you go to the unit standards, and then this is where you submit your POE. So remember this page, when we did the assessor, we had some information about the assessor here, where they can put the 63%, competent, yes or no. But you as a training provider, we see you as a facilitator. So what you've done now is you submit the POEs that have been submitted by the learners, and then you send it over to the assessor to do the assessment. This is what I showed earlier. So you just come here, you browse, you submit your POE, that's all. You can't submit marks because you're just facilitating. Then the assessor submits the marks. The moderator moderates those assessments. Okay, so it starts here, it starts from you. You submit the POE. Once you've submitted the POE, this orange button appears that says send notification to assessor. Remember when we logged in as an assessor and you were submitting the assessment, the orange button said send notification to moderator. So the first person submits the POE, then he sends it to the assessor assesses, then the assessor sends it to the moderator to do the moderation. Okay? So now you remember you have to do this now for all the unit standards. But if there are any integrations, then you don't have to do, you just do it once and then the other unit standards are also integrated into that one. So the POEs will then be carried over to those integrations. When they do the assessment is carried over to those integrations. Moderation, same thing. Then when you're 50%, you just come here to upload assessor and moderator reports. So for the interval, you need to submit an interval assessor report and an interval moderator report. Also, when you go here, you'll see that these are all green. So these will become green. They're always red until everyone has done their part. So when you, as a training provider, submitted the POE, all right. I'm being warned that we have 17 minutes left, so I'll try to rush. So when you submit your POEs, for each of the unit standards, it will still be red. When the assessor assesses the POEs, it will still be red. When the moderator finishes his part, then it will be marked green, and you'll see that it's completed, completed, completed. So POEs, this is what you submit as a training provider. Assessments is what the assessor obviously assesses, and moderations is that. And this is just a summary for all the learners. So which means on all the learners, whether they've passed or not, it's regardless of that. So if they've failed, you've still submitted. Okay? So the system will go and check, okay, unit standard 244580, all the learners, have their POEs been submitted? Yes. Then it will say POEs completed for 244580. Then it moves, okay, still for 244580. Have the assessments been done for all the learners? So if there's one learner left, then it will say incomplete. So which means if a learner has failed, then you still need to say no at that point. Then it goes to moderation as well. Have all the learners been moderated, or the percentage, depending on the number of learners? Then it will say completed, then it will turn green. So that green is to tell you that, look, this is finished. When it's red, it shows you that these are not yet complete. Also, because these are integrated, once this is done, and shows you the integrations here, this column. So once this one is done, then all these also will turn green. These that are integrated. And that's why it shows them here. So you'll be able to see if you're 50% or not to do to request for the interval verification. If you are 50% and can request for interval verification, you'll be able to submit their reports at the bottom here. The interval, there's an interval moderation report and an interval assessment report. This specific one that I'm looking at has already finished interval, and that's why their reports are here. And because everything is complete, the next then will be the exit verification. You submit your exit verification reports, and then you request for an exit verification. And once you do that, then the status of the program will change to exit verification requested. So this all sounds, but we're going to put videos there, so when you're actually doing it, you'll be able to watch the video and see how to do it. Okay? Yes, sir. No, it's no problem.
So forgive me. So in terms of POE, as a training provider, when I upload there, it means I must upload all those documents, pre-assessment and agreements and the actual assessments. Does it mean that's what I need to upload for that particular learner on that particular unit standard? I'm just checking. When you say POE, do I submit all of those? Isn't it, there will be assessment agreements and all of those that must happen, those documents?
Okay, all right, noted. For each unit standard, you're going to submit only the evidence for that unit standard. It would be too much for you to submit, your preparation checklist, all of that for each unit standard. We're trying to obviously make life easier for you, not to burden you in any way. But I think because now you've raised this question, I think there is a very important part that we actually forgot, where they have to upload their assessment documents. I think that we left that out from the system. So, but as indicated, our developers are very open to new suggestions. They will build that into the system. Okay.
Because in this case, the assessor will just view the document there. So it's not like the process of having a physical where you comment or you do anything, you approve it and put a level, competence. That's what it means.
Because obviously the feedback forms also have to be uploaded onto the system. So I think under that, the assessment documents, as you've indicated, all those assessment documents, even the feedback will be uploaded there. Okay, right. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd also need further clarification based on when all those internal assessments and moderation has been done. There is normally verification to follow. Now, is MICT going to conduct verification on what has been submitted on by the assessor and moderators internal? And if so, what is the timeline frame? And once that has been done, is it automatically loaded so that the learner can see, or it is only when it is 50%?
Okay, so the process that's going to be introduced, we are obviously going to have induction verification, interval verification, and exit verification. So during interval verification, after you have conducted 50% of, you've concluded 50% of your assessments, that's when MICT SETA is going to conduct interval verification. So you'll be allocated, okay, let me just explain how the process will unfold. You'll obviously apply for your induction verification, and advisor will be allocated to your application there and then. So we're trying to obviously ensure that there is someone who is going to monitor your program from the beginning until the end. So this is the person whom you will liaise with in case you have any challenges whatsoever. Thereafter, after you have completed 50% of your assessments, the advisor will conduct interval verification. We do have an option, obviously, from our side as verifiers to actually skip those processes, taking into consideration what has been submitted. If, let's say, for example, you are a training provider that has been conducting verification for a number of years, and you do understand how to go about the process, and your allocated advisor is actually happy with the the quality of information submitted, they are able to skip that process altogether. But in a case whereby you find that there are gaps identified from the documents that you would have submitted, the advisor would then say, okay, let's schedule a verification session and actually look at what you have submitted. We've also noted, obviously, from the verifications we've been conducting, especially for funded programs, that there are a number of gaps that we identify when the program ends. And when it has ended, there are no longer any learners available to obviously come back and remediate. So we obviously need to ensure that before the learners actually exit the program, all the challenges or the gaps that have been identified are addressed.
There's another question.
Okay. Okay, which question?
Oh, sorry, ma'am. I just wanted to find out, will I be able to assist learners if they request progress report, say quarterly progress report on the system? Because you find out that as we go along with the program, maybe after 6 months, one learner will say, seeing that I've completed a couple of unit standards, is it possible for you to print me something like a transcript or a progress report to say I've completed so and so unit standards? So I just want to check on the system, is it possible for me to track down this learner has completed so many unit standards and being able to print a transcript or a record of learning of some sort?
Okay, all right. Please note that a learner is able to obviously receive credits if the learner has been verified. So if verification has not taken place, we cannot confirm that the learner has completed. So obviously the learner has to complete first. Mark, from the system, are you able to have a progress report? We have not built that into the system whereby we are able to issue a progress report for your learners. Because when we developed the system, we just developed a learner management system instead of an e-learning system. So obviously you want to be able to track. Hence, learners do not even have access to the system. It's only a learner management system. Okay, all right. But in the future, perhaps it's something we can look into. Thank you. Yes, sir?
Okay. We have a system that we are using. And I just learned that this system was approved by MICT SETA because I had to do all the checks to see whether is this system recognized now that I'm having problems with the verifiers. Okay. Now, it is very strange that we will use the system that is approved, where the learners will submit their POEs and all the other documents. And when it's time to exit the learners at a verification stage, right, we create a profile for the verifier so that the verifier will be able to go through the system. And we are even happy to take them through the system if they need to. Now, I'm asked to go to my system, it's called my system now, and download whatever evidence that the verifier is looking for and email. What's the point of having a system and a profile for everyone? I mean, we've got a profile for an assessor, a moderator, a verifier. But we are asked to go to the system and download. We're talking about over 200 assessments per learner, plus all those supporting documents. Why do we have to download an email when people can access the system and the system is approved?
I understand your frustration. I truly understand your frustration. We have a number of training providers with different systems. Each training provider will have obviously its own functionalities and all of that. And for verifiers to actually try to understand how your system functions, it becomes a challenge. So when a verifier then comes through to conduct verification and they request that, can you please just download your learner POEs, it's just for them to actually conduct verification outside of your system. We should also be able to, the system should be able to produce those documents outside of the system so that we ensure that all the data is there, everything is captured accordingly, and also for audit purposes. I'll tell you what happens when we conduct verification. After we've concluded your verification session, a report is submitted and all of that, everything is captured, right? And after a certain point, after a certain time, we are also audited. The auditors will then come through to the ETQA division and actually request for those learner POEs, they need to see them because they cannot go through each learner management system to actually verify those POEs do exist. So we need to ensure that from our side, we do have those learner POEs. And remember that the verifier will not request that you send all your learner POEs. They'll just request, they will sample your learner POEs. They'll not take all of them, right? And also, most of the challenges that we experience from learner management systems that are not approved. Yours is approved, fortunately. From the learner management systems that are not approved, you find that it's not properly aligned. You're not even able to navigate through it. Hence, it is therefore a need for you to actually download your learner POEs. I do understand the frustration from your side.
Good afternoon, and thanks, Bui. I think my colleague there asks, I must remind the colleagues here that the mandate of the rollout of the skills development, the levies, remains with MICT SETA. I just also want you to, if for instance all of us here had different learner management systems, it will be almost impossible for anyone to go through your own different systems, right? And also, it is still onerous on us to actually maintain these records because at any given point in time when we get audited, the auditors would go backwards a number of years, and we don't know whether you'll still be in business. And we hope you'll still be in business. But for us, we should be able to maintain these records until whatever time. When a learner is actually exited through the system, they come back to us to request certification. We can't go back to you and be requiring some kind of evidence. So it is important for our own, even though you've maintained these records, which we appreciate, by the way, it shows you are forward-looking, we appreciate that. It is important for our own to maintain these records, and we did cover the fact that we are also having to get audited, we have to make reports available, etc. Just to remind you, the mandate remains with us, and you remain our service provider to roll out the program. Thanks very much. But once we have our own system, you would be able to do that process in our system anyway. So even if you maintain these records in your system, we would want that information to come to our system, which is what we are piloting here for you.
All right, any other questions? I think my time is up. Any other questions? Anything that you might want to know before we close? There'll be training manuals on the system, so you'll be able to watch those videos as well. Any questions, any comments, anything? Yes, ma'am.
The employed ones skills program. You'll find that they are supposed to submit an affidavit confirming their working status and that they are not funded, but they are not funded, but they are employed. So is it possible for them to not to submit those documents because they complain a lot that they don't have time to go to the police station to do the affidavit, and then also they don't want to submit their fixed contract, employment contract because of the POPIA Act, like the POPIA Act.
Yeah, I think all mandatory documents need to be submitted. They need to submit
Yeah,
them.
especially the ones that we have for the unions. We find it difficult for us because we need to upload all the documents here, but they don't submit. So I don't know what we can do about it.
All documents that are required, once again, because they are audited, and the auditors will ask for that affidavit. They will ask for the certified ID copy. So all documents that are requested there are requested because they are needed by the auditors.
And another thing, the AI, we find that we upload documents that are certified, and then the ID copies are clear, and then it will say that it doesn't recognize the ID number, but when you view the ID copy, everything is clear, but it will say fail. The ID number is not recognized.
So the AI is just a guide. So it does not reject the document. It just tells you that, look, for me, I couldn't see it. But at the end of the day, the administrator will check it and they'll be able to approve it or not.
Okay, thanks.
And that's why the document still says there, but it just warns you, because later on you might have a problem and then they delay the process once again because of that document. So it's just a warning. Any other questions?
I think the understanding with regards to artificial intelligence is that it helps us to be able to improve our processes and be able to assist you quicker. Once that system may reject a document, it suggests there's something not okay with the document. And it may be in your interest to actually correct that so that the process doesn't actually become elongated unnecessarily. So if the platform rejects it, double check, because you don't want to wait 3 months and then the actual person behind it then comes back and say this document, we can't use it. Then you remember now actually the system wants you, but you ignored it, and then that then delays the process further. Right? Mark, I don't know if you are done from your side. I want to move towards closing the session, colleagues, with your permission. We've kept you here from 9 o'clock. I think I should take this opportunity on behalf of MICT SETA to appreciate you, your presence here. I think it is the interest of the board of MICT SETA and management to prioritize the relationships and the interactions we have with our stakeholders, which is yourself. So the feedback which we've obtained here, some not related to the system, some about our processes, but I think these inputs are noted. What we are going to do is to then assess whether we should, because if my colleague here has a problem, doesn't mean all of you have the same problem, and the system needs to address a universal problem. So we should be able to assess these things, whether they require individual attention or a population attention. So we will be able to look at all these things and be able to, where necessary, update the system. There was an issue about an e-learning platform that will assist further, and that is still under development. This system is rolled out in different phases. In the next phase, there will be other additional features as we continue to improve our system, right? So this was the first leg of our sessions nationally, and we appreciated that we started here in Mpumalanga. Maybe it's because the sun rises from this side at the beginning. So let me thank you, colleagues. We're going to invite you to please join us for lunch in the restaurant. And I should think that today doesn't close these interactions about the system. It's a new baby. We would have other sessions. They may be online, but definitely we would have other sessions. As and when you interact with the system, you should be able to give us feedback on what we can improve. And also, we appreciate both negative and positive comments, what we can improve, whether the system you find it very user-friendly, and all these other things. They are important for us to improve it. It's not our system, it's a system we develop for our stakeholders. So all the other sessions that we'll be organizing, you will be informed. Please do attend so that you become, because it doesn't become, you don't become an expert at the first interaction. So those other sessions will help you to become familiar with our system going forward. And I thank you very much for attendance. The session is adjourned.